You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to Locked On Buckeyes Live after Ohio State's 14-7 win over the Texas Longhorns, who were the number one team in the country. They are not going to be the number one team in the country when the polls come out next week. I'm your host, Jay Stevens. This show is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this live show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, we will definitely discuss the offensive play calling. We'll definitely talk about Matt Patricia and some of the things he did today to confuse the Texas Longhorns. But we got to start with what Ohio State did today in this big statement that the entire team made in their 14-7 win over the Texas Longhorns. Because this is a moment where Ohio State bringing in not just a lot of new starters on defense, they're also bringing in a lot of new faces on offense. They have a new starting quarterback. They have a new offensive play caller. Oh, wait, they have two new coordinators on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. They have a lot of new things, a lot of different things going on that would be something that if you're looking at Ohio State and saying, what's one thing that could trip Ohio State up? It's a lot of new faces in new places. But that didn't seem to trip up Ohio State's defense or the offense during the game. And it's huge to be Ryan Day right now when you're trying to attack a national championship this season and you are doing it while also working in a lot of new people. There was a reason why Vegas, a lot of people around the country, viewed Ohio State as a team that can do some big things this year, but as a team that shouldn't win this game or weren't going to win this game because of various things that Ohio State had with them. But they walk away from this game victorious with the major statement because you're going now, people are going to look at Ohio State a lot differently than they did before the game was kicked off. Ohio State opened the game up. There were some interesting things that happened on offense. There were some drops that happened with Max Clare on the fourth down early in the game. And then Jeremiah Smith had two uncharacteristic drops in the first half of the game, which that could have demoralized the morale. That could have got a lot of people to not follow the game plan. But everybody stuck to their preparation. They stuck to what they do very well, which is play the football. And we'll talk more about Patricia later on, but hats off to the defense, man. To hold this Texas offense that has weapons all over the field, that has two really good running backs, that has Arch Manning. I do believe Arch is going to be a really good quarterback. And they didn't go into this game worried about the things they've heard. They didn't go into this game looking across and seeing a Manning and saying, oh, we might as well fall down. No, they enter the game ready to go and ready for battle. And this is a great jump start to what Ohio State has right now. Because you may have been somebody that was a little bit worried or a little bit nervous about what Ohio State was going to be this year because of a lot of the new faces in new places. And even if someone were to look at a list of the top 10 players in this game coming into the game, well, Ohio State has number one and number two in Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. But some were saying 4, 5, or maybe even 6 of the top 10 players in this game were on Texas's side. That wasn't good enough because offensively, yeah, it wasn't the game you wanted. But Ryan Day's message all week, just win, baby. That's it. And you walk out of this game with a 14-7 win, with a goal line stop, with Texas struggling on third and fourth downs. When you allowed a touchdown to be scored by Texas with 3:28 left in the game. And the next thing you know, Ohio State's defense follows the blueprint. They stick to what they are supposed to do. And we talk all about Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles and K-Jack on the show, as we're going to all year. But let's not forget, Arvell Reese off the edge is going to be a lot of fun to watch. CJ Hicks off the edge, where on the final play that Texas had, he was off the edge untouched. Yes, on the broadcast, they hyped up and talked about Arch Manning's strength, which you need to. But what happened? One of CJ Hicks' teammates was right there to defend the pass. I believe it was Caleb Downs on the tackle where the tight end caught the ball and tried to stretch out a little bit towards the first down marker, but he was too far away to even make that thing something that crossed the first down line. This defense is going to be fun offensively. What else do you want? 14 points to a defense that I believe is going to be one of the top defenses in the country in the season opener. I mean, hats off to everybody. And Ryan Day, a man that has been scrutinized even after winning a national championship, and people are trying to look at him and say, well, he still hasn't done this or he still hasn't done that. Ryan Day is still undefeated in season openers. He is undefeated. Well, he's only lost one game to a power conference team in the non-conference slate. A lot of coaches out there, and in that span between that loss and now, Ohio State played at Notre Dame Stadium, and Notre Dame came to Ohio State. So there are a lot of teams, if you looked at what Ryan Day has done in his time at Ohio State, they may say, oh, well, that's a loss for you. Why? Well, because it's that team, and they're coming to your place, but it's still that team. It's that helmet. Well, that helmet came to Ohio State. That helmet and the Longhorns brought their fans, brought Matthew McConaughey, and what happens? They're walking away looking at Ohio State the same way you and I are, that this is a major statement that they made today. And moving forward, I know it's an instant reaction. We're not trying to look forward a little bit too far, especially early in the show, but you definitely have to be very excited about what's to come for this team. Not just because you got a couple of cupcakes down the road, but because you showed up. You were very, very physical in the season opener against a team that was ready to bring the wood and lay the lumber on your field. You didn't find a way to back away and to not really do the things that we have grown to love about Ohio State. Their fight, their aggression. And Ryan Day says, hey, there's an edge about this team right now. They've been edgy, and he mentioned that back in the spring, that there's an edge about this team that makes them very, very special. And when there's an edge about the team that you're on, it's one thing when the coach says that. You know the coach is going to say certain things to make you feel some type of way, to kind of talk to the media and say, hey, this is what I have seen from this team in practice. Doing it in practice is one thing. Showing off that edginess is great when no media, there's no fans that are there. Showing that off on a college football Saturday when everybody and their mama is watching you, the Ohio State Buckeye player, and you, the Ohio State Buckeye team, and everyone is watching them. This raise is going to come out. It's going to be stupid high. Why? So Ohio State and Texas, a top 3 showdown in the shoe. And Ohio State walked out with a major statement win. You take down the number 1 team in the country in week 1 with all the moving parts Ohio State had in the offseason heading into this game. Everyone's going to look at Ohio State in a different way, as they should. Hats off to Ryan Day. I was a little bit nervous at times about the preparation, even my own prediction for this game. As many of you know, I predicted Ohio State to lose 20-17. I didn't want my prediction to be correct, but that's how I felt in the moment, that Ohio State was going to struggle offensively to get into a rhythm. Well, that prediction was correct. Ohio State did struggle to get into a rhythm offensively, but the outcome was incorrect. Ryan Day's, man, he has something going with this team. Julian Sayin's first start, I'm not really going to be upset with him. There were some things that he did well, some things he will learn from. He was 12 for 18 on the game, 13 to 20, 126 yards, 1 touchdown. It could easily be 15 of 20. So 16 of 20. So there was literally 3 drops that I think about right now in my head that could easily be more completions, a better completion percentage, and a better game all around for Julian Sayin. The Buckeyes offense would have gotten to a better rhythm. Speaking of a rhythm, y'all, the Buckeyes defense during this statement win got into a rhythm early, and they were physical, and a lot of it has to do with what Matt Patricia was doing as he called his first defense in Columbus. This Locked on Buckeyes Live is brought to you by Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices, with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. We have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. Speaking of helping us out, Matt Patricia may have helped your blood pressure or help your mentals during this game, because for him to go into the game with a defense that can be very versatile but is very inexperienced, he could have done some things that were pretty conservative. But Matt Patricia did it. He leaned into the expertise of the coach in the field in Caleb Downs. He also leaned into the players that are on the team, Jermaine Matthews Jr., Davison Igbinosun, who played big in this game. Some guys up front, Kenyatta Jackson Jr., hope he's healthy and able to bounce back next week. Matt Patricia found out what his team was made of in the preseason and dialed up an ideal game plan for this day to hold a quarterback like Arch. And I'm going to say it again. Arch Manning is going to be good. I don't know how good he will be, but Arch Manning is going to be good. Where Arch was 17 of 30, 170 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And this is a game that Arch could not get comfortable at all. I mean, there's a reason why at the end of the day, Contravion Wisner, I'm going to call him what his mama calls him, has 16 carries and 80 yards on the ground. CJ Baxter had 10 carries and 40 yards on the ground. And then Arch, this is also the sack yardage and sack carries added to it. Arch Manning had 10 carries for 38 yards. At the end of the day, Texas did outrush Ohio State by almost 100 yards. Texas had 166 yards on the ground, where Ohio State had 77. I'm going to talk more about the Ohio State issues running the ball in the very next segment. But even though they were better on the ground running the ball, Ohio State's defense never let them get comfortable at all. And in a pregame video I made talking about some things Ohio State needed to do to win the game, and one of them was disrupt Arch Manning. In that video, I highlighted CJ Hicks. I didn't highlight everybody. And I should have said, if you own the field for Ohio State's defense, you are in charge of making sure that Arch Manning doesn't get comfortable. Because as you're watching this game, from the jump to the back of the game, you could look out there and say, 3rd down, 4th down. How confident was Arch, or how confident were Texas's players on offense to get that done, including a goal line stand where you're literally on the half-yard line. Let's just be a little conservative here, probably the 1-inch line. You're literally right there. If you move the ball just a little bit, you're going to be in the end zone. QB sneak, where 9 times out of 10 with your heavy set, that's going to be a decision that's going to work out in your favor. No, Ohio State had, 3, maybe 4 guys between both guards. 2 guys on either shade of the center, 2 guys on the inside shade of both guards. And what did you find? Nothing. They couldn't get a push. They couldn't go anywhere, including IGB, who I am going to be a big fan of right now. IGB going over the top and making his physicality felt and making his presence felt by pulling the ball carriers back. And Arch Manning, this defense was amazing. Well, it wasn't just the 3rd and 4th down stops. It was also the ability to have one look pre-snap and then have a different look post-snap, which made the picture for Arch very, very cloudy. If I'm Arch Manning, I'm rolling into this game and watching film and thinking, okay, I have a great handle on what they're going to do. I don't know how much of a help his uncles or his dad were in prep. I assume since they're family, maybe they're close enough to have some type of help while preparing Arch for the game. Even if they don't, you have Steve Sarkisian on your side, who is a phenomenal offensive mind, phenomenal developer of quarterbacks. So Arch has enough, even inside the coaching staff there in Austin, to prepare for this. But the unpredictability about Matt Patricia was great. We called it an X factor, and something that was a big advantage for Ohio State, that Matt Patricia's, I won't say inability to really show his hand, but not really knowing what he was going to do was huge. I do like a lot having Reese come off the edge and having CJ Hicks off the edge as well. I think those two off the edge guys that came into Ohio State to be linebackers are going to be a big benefit for Ohio State down the road. And so I do think moving forward, you might see a little different mix of Hicks off the edge rushing a lot. He did drop into coverage. Those guys on the end, they're not always rushing the passer. And now you may want to say, Jay, is it primarily going to be the guys that are more a linebacker, edge rusher hybrids that are going to be dropping back into coverage? No. You're going to see at times Atkinson, Bo Atkinson, Caden Curry, K-Jack. You're going to see a lot of guys drop back into coverage because that is going to continue to confuse the opposing quarterback. And if I'm an opposing offensive coordinator or head coach, how do you prepare for this? How do you? I mean, a lot of the things, this is what I thought about actually during the game. A lot of the things Ohio State's defense did with the three-man front, with your jack position maybe being on the outside versus bumping the edge rusher or the defensive end to the outside, and then the jack or hybrid linebacker moving and being in the B gap or the C gap. A lot of those things that we saw, those are things that we talked about on this show when Jim Knowles was hired. Now, we also knew that in the secondary, there was going to be a different picture with the 4-2-5 look versus Ohio State's previous defensive front, but you knew that there was going to be some creativity up front that would help the secondary in coverage. And so now as a quarterback, as we saw with Arch today, Arch has to worry about not only Caleb Downs, where is he, man, the more hybrid body type on the field? Well, if you're going to walk up Arvell Reese and you're also going to have Hicks on the outside, now you're trying to have to ID number 2, number 11, number 8 on any given play. And that's going to cause you to hold the ball a little bit longer, to second guess maybe some of your throws, not be as accurate. That is going to really impact your productivity and how efficient you are as a quarterback. Now, for Matt Patricia to be in his bag and to really confuse some things for the Texas offense, there was one thing that really was kind of annoying to watch. I won't say annoying, but you knew that Sark was going to try to lean into the running backs that Texas has, and that was how much they were running the ball. And there were times early in the game where I'm thinking, okay, this is not going to be an every down thing or an every series thing. No, Sark was definitely trying to use the run to make Arch's job easier. And in any game, not only if you have 166 yards on the ground, but also if you outrush your opponent by almost 100 yards, you're going to think you're going to win the game. It's 91 yards to be exact. I did the quick math in my head. If I'm incorrect, okay. But in any given game, if you outrush your opponent by almost 100 yards, you have 2 full more yards per carry than your opponent, you're going to think you're going to have a great shot to win. But they did. But it was a work. Ohio State forced Texas to work for everything. Nothing was easy. It was so much fun to watch this defense fly around and bust some heads, and to be a team that didn't listen to all the noise and didn't listen to a lot of things that were said about them. They just simply went out there and did their job. Ohio State's defense held Texas to 5 of 14 on third down and 1 for 5 on fourth down. We all remember the fourth down goal line stop. Let's not forget, they had 3 more fourth down stops outside of that one. And then 5 of 12, was it 5 of 12? 5 of 14, excuse me, I gave them a couple attempts. 5 of 14 in third down attempts? I'm sitting here in awe as I am saying this. I was pretty quiet during the game, honestly. I'm more quiet than normal. My wife was probably like, why are you so quiet? But it's a game. It's a Saturday. And Ohio State's playing a very intense game. Now, next weekend against Grambling State, probably won't be as quiet. I might try and go on the YouTube to try to see where the live feed of the marching band is, the Grambling State marching band, because y'all know, at least in the HBCU side, halftime is game time. And during halftime, Ohio State did some things offensively to kind of make things easier for Julian Sayin, because play calling at times was a little bit interesting, but I understand why Ryan Day made the decision they did on the offensive side of the ball. Hey, Locked On Buckeyes fans, are you still paying for full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash back at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Thank you all for tapping into this Locked On Buckeyes live after Ohio State's 14-7 win over Texas. And Texas is one of those teams that down the road, people are going to have to watch out for very, very closely. Texas has a lot of firepower. I think Ohio State has a little bit more firepower as it stands right now. But the Longhorns are going to be good. And the Longhorns defense is going to be good as well. And in this game, Hartline and Ryan Day and Billy Fessler prepared Julian Sayin to go out there to win, to do what is needed to win the game. And I'm curious, before I get any further, what are your thoughts about how Julian Sayin played in this game? And are you a fan of the way Hartline, and I will include Ryan Day in this, kind of called the game or prepared the game? Or would you change something up? Because I think there are a lot of you that are maybe like me in the moment where you like what you saw at times, but there were also moments where you're thinking, why are they running the ball so much? Well, that's my first thought, really, of these three that are in no particular order. Ohio State ran the ball at times in scenarios that they should not have ran the ball. And it's one where I'm looking at this game and I'm thinking, early in the game, first drive of the game, honestly, you go run, you get it to third and short, 3rd and 1. That should easily be a scenario where you run, like you can get that goal accomplished to get a first down. Run the ball again, don't get it. Now, on 4th down, I'm not really knocking the play call itself because Max Clear is supposed to catch that pass. It literally hit both hands and it did not work. Okay, drop the ball. It's unfortunate. It's on 4th down, but on 2nd down, even though you had a big gain, even on 1st down, honestly, coming out and not just running the ball, but throwing it a little bit, I think and I wonder that the conservative stuff that you saw from Ohio State today, it wasn't the best, but I do think you're going to see a scenario where this won't be the norm. Also, there will be games where Ohio State will end up letting Julian Sayin throw the ball first. I had to get my train of thought there for a second. But there will be a lot of games that you want your quarterback to throw the ball first on the first play of the game. But I understand why on that first drive you go run. The second run, I think, probably could have been a pass. I can understand why 3rd and 1 on 3rd and 1. My scenario for that situation, give me an RPO or a play action pass. Don't just go straight run because you're limiting the options that your quarterback has, your offense has to move the ball. If you go RPO, which I believe Sayin will flourish with this year, you're giving Sayin an opportunity to get into the flow of the game, to move his arm for the first time in a throwing motion in the game, but to also allow Texas to not lean into stopping the run. Because it was clear throughout this game, Texas was leaning in every single down to stopping the run. And it worked for them. I mean, it worked. Their game plan worked. I just personally did not like how often Ohio State was leaning into running the ball when they weren't successful with that really in this game. Trying to pull the stats back up so we can get that squared away really quickly. CJ Donaldson got the start, 19 carries for 67 rushing yards, 3.5 yards a pop. He did score the first and only rushing touchdown, first touchdown of the game, and the only rushing touchdown Ohio State had early in that was in the second quarter, actually. James Peoples, 10 for 20. Julian Sayin, 2 for 2. Nothing was really going that well for him. So I do think when it comes to running the ball, Part of that may be in the offensive line where from left to right, it was these were the starters. Saraveld, Montgomery, Hinsman, uh, Tegra, Shabola, and then Philip Daniels. There were moments where Ethan Onyanwa and Tegra Shabola were rotating, but there was a lot of moments in the second half. Ethan Onyanwa was there at right guard a lot. And that was not something I expected a lot in this game for where a big body guy like that might be more of a tackle than a guard would be there at guard. But as we saw last year, it might be that Tegra stamina isn't ready for the big boy games to play 50 to 60, maybe even 70 plays at right guard. So you have a guy in Onyanwa who's working into a new position. I don't know the last time he's played guard. And so you're trying to work him into a new position with a new team. Maybe for this game and for the next few, you try to rotate him a little bit more before saying, well, Tegra, you're not starting because Onyanwa's better, and they're just going to roll out with 5 instead of 6. If they want to move out with 6 moving forward, you have to figure out how to emphasize run blocking for everybody. Another thing about offensive play calling, this is not on the offensive play caller, Brian Hartline. It really hurts Hartline when players are dropping passes. Now, you may say, Jay, it hurts the quarterback more. No. If you're a first-time starting quarterback, first-time play caller, you're trying to figure out what is working. And if you know that something that you're doing that should be a caught pass is a drop, that's going to get into the back of your head. And you might be saying, man, I don't want to move forward with this anymore because homie dropped the ball. Now, it was detailed by Jenny Taft. Great job doing your work. That Jeremiah Smith ended up changing his gloves after his second drop in the first half. Good for him. Because my wife actually asked me a question about that, or maybe I made a comment in regards to maybe those gloves aren't the right gloves. Or maybe he takes the gloves off and goes out there with just old school, no glove look, bare hands, catching a rock, because that may have been a thing. So some of the play calling stuff wasn't always on the play caller. A lot of it was on the inability to not only catch the ball early in the game, but to not be able to really run the ball consistently. I think moving forward, yes, against Grambling State, Ohio State should start the game ready to rock and roll, sling a thing around. Sayin wasn't inaccurate on those passes. I mean, literally, if the pass attempts were the same number and you have, 3 incompletions to his name, three more completions, he's 16 for 20 with maybe 170 yards. Yes, it's less than 200 yards. It'd be the same amount, 1 less completion than Arch, 10 less yards than Arch. But what are you finding? That looks a whole lot better with the completion to attempt ratio. And it's what you want as a quarterback. Complete some short to intermediate passes to get into rhythm, to gain some confidence. And then the next thing you know, bam, you pop one. He popped one to Carnell Tate. Phenomenal catch. Phenomenal catch by Carnell. One where he had to adjust. The defender was pretty good defense. He caught it while the defender was taking him down to the ground. Hats off to him. Donaldson got first touchdown of the year. Last year's first touchdown of 2024 was scored by a transfer running back in Quinshon Judkins. This year's first rushing touchdown was also scored by a transfer running back in his name just escaped me. CJ Donaldson. This game is fun. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to Ohio State making more statements this year. And if I am Ryan Day, as you are now kind of trying to wind down mentally and even physically from the long 3.5 hours of a college football game, feel good about yourself. Ryan Day should be on cloud 9 for a hot minute, but then come back down and say, while that win was great, we have more work to do. Because Ohio State's win over Texas is a major statement for this team to start 2025. You have 8 new starters on defense. You have a new starting quarterback. You have 2 new coordinators. You have a new offensive coordinator that is calling plays for the very first time. Ohio State had a lot of cards on their side of the table that weren't advantageous for them, for many people to say Ohio State had everything they needed to win the game. But the Buckeyes walk out of this game at home in the shoe with a win, a 14-7 win. Was it the prettiest win in the world? No. Was it 40 points and it was a 38-40 win? No. It was ugly. It was a defensive battle. It was one of those things that you say, well, this might not be the kind of game that Ohio State is able to win a few years ago, but they're doing it now. Defensively, these boys are ready to go. The physicality they brought really flustered Texas. The different looks defensively in the back half of the defense made things hard for Arch. Offensively, Julian Sayin is going to get better. This run game and offensive line is going to get better. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brendan Ennis, Max Clare, those weapons, they're going to be fun to watch. Oh, even seeing on the touchdown run by CJ Donaldson, 14 personnel, where your fourth tight end is a freshman tight end and Nate Roberts, who's lined up in the fullback slot. Maybe you want to say it's 23 personnel. Either one, that's a heavy look at a heavy set that is showing the growth for Ryan Day and Hartline for this year's offense. I'm excited for this year's team. I did not know, and I'll say it again for those of you that may be tapping in to this live or in the replay form, Matt, I didn't think Ohio State was going to win. I predicted on this show last Thursday, Texas 20, Ohio State 17. And I'm walking away maybe a little bit more excited than I thought in an Ohio State win, because this team looks like not just one of the best teams, one of the best teams in the country. You can't say the best team yet, not everybody has played. But if you have this kind of win in week one against a Longhorns team that's going to be no worse than number 3 in the country, you're doing a lot of things right. This game was a big win. This is also, we're in the midst of another big moment on Locked On, because college football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, and it's only on Fire TV. Thank you all for tapping in and making this a part of your college football Saturday. And you can follow me on social media, on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. It says Locked On Buckeyes on a Saturday. We'll see you next time.